All right, welcome back to another episode of the Boys on the Bench podcast. We are your hosts. I am DJ Riley, and alongside me is my brother Dalton Riley and lifelong friend Nathan Eastwood. In this episode, we are going to be talking about our projected sleepers in this upcoming 2023 NFL draft. So we are going to give you two different options on who we think is going to kind of be someone that's drafted in maybe the second, third, or even later rounds and contribute big to their team. But before I jumped into this, we saw some breaking news come out about the Jets and Packers finally getting a trade done, sending Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay to New York. And in this trade, we saw that the Jets obviously received Aaron Rodgers. They moved back 2 spots from the number 13 pick to the number 15 pick, and then also picked up a 5th round pick. The Packers, on the other hand, moved up 2 spots from 15 to 13. They also got a 2nd round pick and a 6th round pick. And then they also picked up a conditional 2024. So next year's draft, they picked up a 2024 2nd round pick. Now, this is a conditional pick. So that means that if Rodgers is set to play if he plays 65% of the plays for the Jets next season, then that 2nd round pick becomes a 1st round pick. So potentially Packers, what they get out of this is a 2nd rounder, a 1st rounder, and a 6th rounder. And then also moving up just kind of 2 spots, which is that's pretty even in my opinion. So they have the potential to pick up a 1st round pick, which is a very interesting trade. We were waiting days to see if this was actually going to happen, and now it finally did.
Waiting days, more like waiting a month.
Yeah. Honestly,
but to be, honestly though, like as a Packers fan, DJ, how pissed off would you be if like week 1 Aaron Rodgers tore his ACL?
I mean, I would be upset. There goes
your 2024 extra 1st round pick there.
Especially but it's still locked in as a 2nd. So I would be okay with it. So obviously, I mean, I think the Jets team is built to win. They have a lot of good pieces on the offensive and defensive side. So even if Zach Wilson, that means Rodgers goes down, Zach Wilson comes in. I don't think that they're going to finish maybe 1st in their division with Buffalo sitting there and Miami sitting there in that division. So that means that we'll
Zach
get
Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, because
Zach Wilson. No. With Zach Wilson, we're saying that if Rodgers gets hurt, how upset am I going to be? That means we're going to get a pretty decent 2nd round pick. So I think that worst case scenario is that he makes it midway through the season and then he gets hurt, and then they still end up doing pretty good and go to the playoffs or something. Then that means we get a back end 2nd round pick, and that would be the absolute worst case scenario. So I don't know.
Honestly,
I'm excited though.
I think the trade was good
familiar though. Like, this looks awful too familiar if you're a Packers fan. Like, Brett Favre leaves, plays for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers leaves, plays for the Jets. What's next? Is he going to go to the Vikings?
Possibly. I really don't see him doing that to Green Bay though. I think that he's going to finish his stint as a quarterback in New York. I really don't think. I mean, Brett Favre kind of hinted at the same thing. We saw Brett Favre retire 5 different times. So I have no idea. Like, this could be the same talk as Aaron Rodgers, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I want to play. And then Minnesota's in need of help.
Are you getting a Jets jersey?
I'm conflicted. I'm honestly, I'm conflicted because obviously as a Packers fan, the 2 teams that I'm rooting for this year are the Packers and the Jets now, because I have such a high respect for Aaron Rodgers that I don't want him to go to the Jets and lose. I don't want this to be a career killer for him. I want him to show high success with the Jets. And I almost kind of want him to shove it to us in a sense if Green Bay doesn't do good. But also at the same time, I am ready for the Jordan Love era. It's a matter of time. I don't like the constant, am I going to retire? Am I not going to retire? And then it's just kind of throwing us in this loophole of, uncertainty. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I really am. I am ready for this era, but I will be a Jets fan and a Packers fan this year.
Yeah, I think the trade was good for both teams. Like you said, Nathan, that is kind of crazy to think that, it seems like he's fallen right in the footsteps of Brett Favre. So I think what a crazy coincidence. So this is pretty crazy.
Well, they say history always repeats itself, doesn't it?
Does history has a way of repeating itself?
It's interesting.
I
Yeah,
just hope he shoves it to the Packers.
I mean, he most likely will. We are talking about Aaron Rodgers, and he's definitely getting an upgraded team from what the Packers currently have.
Dude, that
So-
offense is stacked.
It is. It is. So, I mean, and I think that's probably one of the reasons that he wanted to go there. So, I don't know. We saw
You know what,
Tennessee
as a-
kind of make up a late push.
Do they play each other this year? I know it's two different, like AFC and NFC, but do they play this year?
I'm honestly not sure. That would be a very
great Sunday night
fun
football
game.
game.
Yeah, it better be in Green Bay too. I don't want to watch that game in MetLife Stadium. I really don't want to see that. Go
You
to
know, if-
Lambeau.
if- I can see- I can-
yeah.
I can see
Go
the
ahead.
NFL creating, that type of matchup. If they don't play this year, I can see it being like a Sunday night, Monday night game.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Prime time
because
game
look,
next year. So
If Rodgers is still around.
Denver's first
Right.
game, or Russell Wilson's first game in a Broncos uniform was back in Seattle.
yeah. But DJ,
As
that's a good point that you just made too, though. If he's still around, that was something I mentioned back in like our first episode when we were talking about this, I believe. But that's something that I don't think many people took into account during this draft was how long is Aaron Rodgers going to stick around? Like people could say, oh, the Packers definitely, got the better trade out of this. And I think they probably did. I think that, they did get a lot of draft capital out of it. And the thing is with the Jets, I think that's why this draft took as long as it did and it stayed dormant was because how long is Aaron Rodgers going to play? I think that's what made this trade so complex because if he leaves next year, I think the Packers got the best of the, all of the entire trade. So
Well, he did say in an interview that he feels like he could win a couple more Super Bowls and a couple more MVPs in them.
well, at his age and perfect health.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. He could.
But I mean, yeah, you also hear him talk on the Pat McAfee show, and like you can tell that there is a little bit of uncertainty, but he at the same time, like he is a competitor, and that's what he's come out and said that like if he's not going to be 100% all bought in, then he's most likely going to retire. Even if he's at like 99% and he's not all bought in, then he doesn't see the point. So, but that's what I'm saying. He's done that to us the last 2 years. Is like
I think
he doesn't
can
know what he
see,
wants
though-
to do.
I think he can see though that he can win a Super Bowl with the Jets.
Right.
But
no,
then
I
it's
think,
also at
I
the
think-
same time, like if he wins a Super Bowl, like I could also see him saying, like, I'm done. Like I'm gonna end on a good note. I proved my legacy. I can move on to a new team and I can win it all. Like I'm out. Sorry, fellas, I'm out.
No, that's 100% true. I
Yeah,
think
before,
that if they win
before
Super
we
Bowl, he'll
move
be out.
on, yeah, before we move on and dive into this episode, if they were, and I don't have the schedule in front of me, but if the Packers do play the Jets this year and say it is at Lambeau Field on a Sunday night in December,
Whew.
how do Packer fans react to Aaron Rodgers coming back to Lambeau Field in a Jets uniform?
I'll let
You
DJ
have no other option. You literally have no other option but to embrace him and like cheer him on. If you are a Packers fan and you are upset about Aaron Rodgers leaving, you're wrong in the head because Aaron Rodgers, like if you hear him speak out about it, the Packers have done him so dirty throughout his career in Green Bay. And I know we can talk. I feel like for me, I can talk about, well, he hasn't, Gutekunst hasn't even been there his whole career. This has been kind of the back end of it for him. So
Yeah, when he's been there, that's when the worst of
Whoa.
it's been, though.
I mean, yes, but he's also getting older too. I'm also looking at the Packers schedule. They do not play the Jets this year. So the only time we would potentially see it is a Super Bowl, and that is it.
Oh, dude, if he's playing for the Jets next year, that game will definitely be on the schedule at Lambeau Field on a Sunday night for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think
NFL
that's like what
totally
they're
do that.
saying. I think that they're definitely they're gonna make it to where the Jets and the Packers play each other. But that's what I'm saying. There's so much uncertainty with, is he going to be playing in the 2024 season or not? I don't know. So
Absolutely, he will.
yeah. All right. But yeah, like I said, I can sit here and talk about Aaron Rodgers and the speculation and everything else and how much of a fan I am for him. But the purpose of this episode, we are going to talk about our sleepers. So let's go ahead and get this started. I will get it started for us. And the person that I have ranked as my sleeper comes out of Houston. He is a wide receiver. I am going to list an offensive player and a defensive player. So I'll start off with my offensive player, and it is a wide receiver out of Houston. You may know him. He goes by Nathaniel Tank Dell. So you may know him not by Nathaniel, but by Tank Dell out of Houston. He is currently projected to go into the second round. They say that with his stats and everything, he puts up first round talent, but it's a lot of his size concerns and everything else that makes him kind of fall down into the second round. But if we look at his career as a wide receiver at the University of Houston, he has been the most productive wide receiver across the board in all categories. If we look over the past 2 seasons in receptions, he had 199 receptions in the past 2 years. First in all of FBS. 2,700 yards. First in all of FBS. 29 receiving touchdowns. First in FBS. So he has produced the most out of any wide receiver in FBS out of the last 2 years. Now, something else that I saw with him, I don't know if y'all watched, I didn't really watch any of the Senior Bowl, but I did see clips on highlights whenever they were doing one-on-ones with cornerbacks and wide receivers. And I saw some of Tank Dell's highlights, and this dude is an absolute monster. He is probably one of the cleanest route runners that I have ever seen. So I am excited for that and excited to see him come into the draft just because of how twitchy he is. And a lot of the stuff that I've seen is like, this is honestly a quarterback's dream as a slot receiver, because he's going to be someone like, he has the speed to burn down the field, but he also has the twitchy instinct to get open off of a 3-yard in, 3-yard out, 3-yard curl, right? He's going to get that open space to get you that quick spot, and then he has the speed to go off of that. So looking at his comparison also, people are comparing him to Tavon Austin. We know how good Tavon Austin was with the St. Louis Rams, and then kind of moving on throughout his career, he showed a lot of success. And I think that that's honestly a pretty good comparison. They were really small-framed wide receivers and had a lot of success at the schools that they went to. So again, the weaknesses that I saw with him, obviously, like I said, his size, I believe he is a 5'9" wide receiver, and then itty bitty. I don't remember what his weight was, but itty bitty guy. However, he has the tape. He has the tape put out there to prove how good he is. And I know a lot of people are going to say like, well, that's because he was at Houston and that's just a pass happy offense and everything else. So his numbers are going to be skewed. And that's the reason that he has all of those stats, right? But he also has tape. It's not like he was out there facing absolutely nobody and then also at the same time putting up these numbers. So anyways, that is my offensive sleeper, is Tank Dell. I think whoever walks away with this dude has got an absolute steal. The fact that he is projected to go in the second round is insane to me, just because he's 5'9".
Now, what did you say his speed was again? Do you know what his 40 was? By chance?
I don't.
No, that's okay. The only reason I'm wondering is because what thing that does concern me is his size, like you said. But like you're saying, size doesn't necessarily mean anything in the NFL, but I know that sometimes that can be a deciding factor for teams. But the whole point of being a sleeper is regardless of the size, still being able to produce at an elite level for the NFL. Some things that, being at 5'8", 5'9", that's going to put him at some of the top shortest players in the NFL. So that is a little concerning for me. I'll be excited to see how he is, now that you're bringing him up as your sleeper pick. I think I'm going to have to pay attention to him. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty hyped for these small dudes coming into the NFL. I think that, it kind of gives, especially for, like us guys who rode the bench, it kind of gives us some, makes us a little more excited for guys that, who definitely could have rode the bench themselves for being their size, but going out there and still proving, everyone wrong. I think it's going to be excited to watch him.
Well, when you think of people who are that small, I mean, size really, to me as a GM nowadays, size shouldn't really matter, because if you're looking at what small wide receivers have done in the league, it's been incredible. Like you bring up Tavon Austin, Cole Beasley, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, and then then you bring up the comment, well, he played for Houston. They don't play anybody other than Cincinnati every year. Okay, well, what about Cooper Kupp at Eastern Michigan?
Yeah. I mean, even Adam Thielen at a small school too. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that this dude, he's not going to come in and be an outside wide receiver. That's not going to be his role. But you put him at the slot where he has to line up against a slot cornerback, or if you get an adjustment right and you get a perfect matchup, you're throwing a safety or a linebacker on this dude. And that is a complete mismatch. So I think if you use him right, he is going to do so well. And Dalton, I also looked up his 40 time. He ran a 4.49, so not the fastest of wide receivers, but again, I don't think that that's necessarily going to be his role. He's not going to be a Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I mean, because like I said, we know that obviously the speed aspect to that, you got to have some sort of size with you, is because although if you get on top of your defender, you're going to need to make these contested catches, which Tank Dell has proven to do, is make he has caught a high percentage of contested catches throughout his college career. So he's proven that he can do that. But again, we're talking about the transition to the NFL, the League of Men, right? That is going to be a little bit more difficult.
DK Metcalf out there,
right? Exactly. And so one player that was kind of jumping off to me, that as you were talking about, especially with size, I know you had compared him to Tavon Austin. But one player that I thought about right off the bat was Isaiah McKenzie. So he's also 5'9", and out of curiosity, when I asked you what his 40 was while you were talking, I was also looking up Isaiah McKenzie's 40. He also runs a 4.4. So the thing is I can see him being very similar to Isaiah McKenzie, and if he produces as such as Isaiah McKenzie, I think that is a win for a sleeper profile. So.
Yeah, if you're telling me that Isaiah McKenzie is his floor, I will take that. If Isaiah McKenzie is his floor, absolutely. And then you're telling me it's only up from Isaiah McKenzie. Okay. I'm cool with that. I've guaranteed an Isaiah McKenzie on my team. I'm cool with that.
I mean, it all just comes down to it. Like you said, he's not going to be a deep threat in the NFL just because his size, but as long as he could shake a linebacker or a safety and he's twitchy and got great route running, that's all he really needs.
Well, and then we also saw, I don't know how he did special teams wise, like punt return, kick return, but we also saw how explosive Tavon Austin was on special teams. Like he could have really made a career out of special teams play. So if anything, he comes down to that where he's a possession wide receiver and then that's it. And then we see him make a transition into some sort of elite kick returner. That's going to make all of the difference in the world as well.
With all those big body guys out there and those 6 foot plus players, you get lost out there in special teams. Those guys, they're not going to know where he is. So shifty on top of that, dude, gone. So yeah, I think that's very true. I think he'll be lethal in the special teams. So
also, how ironic, this dude's name is Tank and he's 5'9". But he's a dude. He's an absolute dude.
There you go. Hey, yeah, and you know who else is a dude? Somebody that I feel no one is thinking about in this entire draft. And I think this is probably one of the biggest sleepers for me. And quite honestly, it might be a stretch for me, but I think that I'm going to be the most excited to see where this guy goes, is Roschon Johnson, the running back out of Texas. Guys, Bijan Robinson. I feel like if Bijan Robinson wasn't there, we would be talking about this guy. Yeah, shout out to Nathan. There you go, buddy. Big Texas Longhorn fan there. So I know he'll never do it for me with Alabama, but that's all right. But yeah, so this guy's projected between going somewhere in the 5th and possibly even to the 6th round. His combine results, his 40-yard dash was a 4.58. His vertical jump was a 31.5. And his broad jump was 10 feet 2 inches. So nothing really stands out when it comes to his tangibles at the NFL Combine, but his size at 6 foot, 219 pounds makes him set for a 3-down back. Now, I don't know.
When you bring up his 40, 4.58, and we're talking about Roschon Johnson, a lot of people who've watched college football the past couple of years don't understand and realize that Roschon Johnson came into Texas as a quarterback. He was a third-string quarterback, and we had all the stuff going on with Keontae Ingram, and he went up to I believe it was Tom Herman at the time, and said, what can I do to help the team out? Where I want to play, I want to be a leader. what can I do to help this football team? And they moved him to running back. That was the first time he's ever played running back. It was in college at a Division I school at University of Texas.
Well, see, and I didn't even know that, and he's one of my sleeper players, and so that just goes to show you the utility of him as well. So, I mean, that to me just makes him even more of a sleeper for me, just to show like coming out of the backfield. Could you imagine them doing, some type of trick play with him and being able to pull a type of Philly special where he's able to throw the ball? So I think that, that's pretty cool.
He did in the Red River rivalry, by the way.
Well, there you go. So he's already got that too on top. So, but yeah, so for his stats last year for 2022, he had 93 rushing attempts for 554 yards. That's 6 yards per carry. That's pretty efficient. He only had 5 touchdowns, but behind Bijan, I mean, there's no one else better to have the ball in someone's hands like that. So obviously, if Bijan wasn't there, I think his numbers would have been skyrocketed. He did also have 14 receptions for 128 yards, so he can play with catch the ball in the air as well. Also, one thing I did notice too is Lance Zierlein, an NFL analyst, described him as a power back with a bruising frame who fits the football cliche as tough, smart, and dependable. And the reason he says he's dependable is because he only had one career fumble in his 4 years there at Texas. So I think that when I think of looking at his NFL Combine results and what Lance Zierlein said, I think that he kind of reminds me a lot of Jamal Williams. I think being able to be that bruising back and be able to, in the way that teams can use him, I don't think he'll be a 3-down back, but I think that using what he's built for, it screams Jamal Williams.
I actually really like that comparison a lot, just because I think that that's kind of how the Jamal Williams upbringing came about. I don't remember his exact round that he was picked in. I know that he obviously went to Green Bay, but he didn't come in as like expected to be our top dog at all. Like he came in, he was drafted to be a backup running back, had the capabilities to be a 3-down back, but he didn't have necessarily the skill set and everything else to be that 3-down back. So I really like that comparison a lot. He was also someone that's highly dependable, didn't have a lot of career fumbles. So, and just hard nosed, like he's going to give it his all every single play.
So being that, go ahead, Nathan.
Watching Texas, like, I watch Texas every single week. And, when you have Bijan back there, who is arguably, he was the best running back in all of college football, without a doubt. But, as a defense, you're sitting here and you're like, damn, I got to stop Bijan Robinson. He goes off the field. You're like, oh, whew. Then, your middle linebacker and you plug the hole. And now Roschon Johnson just put a shoulder pad in your chin. You're like, son of a bitch, who is that guy? So, like, they had a great 1-2 punch there at Texas, and Sarkisian used them well. And Roschon, like, there was some times where, Bijan, maybe didn't do as well as Sarkisian thought it going into the game planning. And then Roschon would come in and break a 50-yard run and lower his shoulder and truck a middle linebacker. I mean, I wish he would have stayed one more year at Texas because he would be the starting running back. And in my opinion, if he would have done that, he could probably be a 1st or 2nd round pick in next year's draft, because he has the ability to be a number 1 running back just by watching him at Texas, because it's hard nosed. He plays hard nosed smash mouth football, and he runs downhill. And if you're in his way, he's going to run you over. He's not as shifty as Bijan. He won't try to make you miss. He's going to move you.
Yeah, and I agree, and like that's what I'm curious, Dalton, as to what you have his weaknesses as. I know that obviously he's a 5th, 6th round. He wasn't the starting back at Texas. I'm curious though as to what you say that his weaknesses are, just because like I think he has a high ceiling.
Yeah, and and before you go, when you're comparing his weakness, like you're going to compare his weakness to Bijan, because that's who was in front of him. So just remember that when we compare his weaknesses.
Right. So obviously, I was just about to get into that. So being like DJ said, being a 5th and 6th round pick potential, there are obviously weaknesses, if not a little more concerns than most players going to be drafted the 1st or 2nd day, right? So one of his weaknesses is lacking the juice to widen the field and find chunk runs and take. And he also likes to take on heavy contact on most carries. That was something that was said by what they saw on tape by a lot of the sources that were coming in. So he's not very creative. He likes to just run downhill. He likes to just play 9 yards in a cloud of dust, right? So he's that hard-nosed football. So he's not going to – so with that being said, DJ, where I kind of disagree with you, I don't think he has a very high ceiling. I think his ceiling's actually relatively pretty low. I think that because he's not as dynamic – I think because he's not as dynamic and because he kind of lacks the creativity with the ball in his hands, teams know what they're going to get, which is why I think is a good thing. And that's, being in comparison to Jamal Williams. I think that he's going to come in, he's going to be a red zone threat right off the bat, and being dependable with only one fumble in his career. I think he'll be able to come in and add that dynamic to a team that they need behind the line. But I think because of his lack of dynamic and his creativity and just being, he's not afraid to lay a punch, but he's not being very creative behind the line and being very twitchy. I think that kind of hurt his draft stock, and also just obviously, like we said, with Bijan being over him, kind of overshadowed him.
Does it hurt his draft stock because he's the backup to Bijan Robinson? I mean, like when he comes in, when Sarkisian calls plays when Roschon Johnson's a running back, it's not outside option, pitch and all this. It's I'm running it down your fucking throat with Roschon Johnson.
Right.
How do you widen the field if you're calling power I right through the A gap?
Right, but I still feel like calling a power I right down the A gap. I mean, there's still ways to be creative, such as holding up a bit and allowing things to unfold a bit or doing whatever. There's ways instead of just running the ball where you're told to run it. I think that's there's a way to be creative in every aspect of the way you play football. But I don't know what type of play calls were called. I just know that his style of running was when he was bouncing outside, instead of making a spin move or trying to break the tackle, he would rather bulldoze and try to run defenders over. That's the difference. So he wasn't as elusive as scouts wanted him to be. He just knew how to play football, and he played it aggressively. And
see where I was getting at with
this guy's an athlete. Just because we can sit here and I'm with DJ. I think Roschon Johnson's potential is through the roof. And that's solely because he's been playing running back for 4 years. And then when he started playing running back was when he was on a Division I football team at the University of Texas. And who was y'all's All-American linebacker at Alabama, Dalton? I forget his name.
You talking about Matt Wilson? Oh, yeah, no. Toto. I thought you were talking about,
If I remember correctly, there was a play on the 45, we were on the 45-yard line and in Alabama territory or our own territory. It was 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3. And they pull Bijan out of the game. They bring in Roschon Johnson, and that man just absolutely trucked Toto into the dirt.
Well, you're adding to my point.
3 yards of the first down.
Right. You're adding exactly to my point.
That's a guy who's only been playing running back for 3 years.
Right,
4 years.
But your style of your story of what happened was exactly the exact same style of play that I'm talking about, right? So
yeah, but he hasn't got the opportunity to widen the field or whatever because of what his role was at Texas. It wasn't because he can't do it. It was just that was his role at the University of Texas. Because look at Jermone Bettis. He couldn't widen the field. You put him in the game to bulldoze people in the dirt.
Right, but you're also adding exactly to what I'm saying. Guys, don't forget this is my sleeper pick, right? What I'm saying is you're right. Because of his lack of what he was able to do and widen his ability as a running back and grow in his development at Texas, that's why I see him as a potential 5th to 6th round pick where he's projected, at right now. He's a bulldozer type of player. He's a Jamal Williams, right? He's not going to give you those Jonathan Taylor type attributes. So at the same time, you're right. But I'm agreeing with you, Nathan. I think you're more aligning with me, but in the fact that he is an athlete and he's a great football player. But I think even if he does give us the ceiling of Jamal Williams or the floor of Jamal Williams at a 5th or 6th round projected pick, that is a sleeper. So I'm with you that it does. I don't think he has to be everything, that NFL teams need and want and desire, out of Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. I think being a 5th round pick and being a Jamal Williams is an absolute steal for any team, right? So that's what I'm seeing.
And I just think his potential is there.
And that's what I was sitting at. I'm not saying that his ceiling is necessarily through the roof, but where I was heading at is like as a 5th or 6th round pick, I think that he has such a high ceiling for a 5th or 6th round pick.
Right.
Like
His
that's
ceiling's
what
higher than- yes.
that's what I was saying. And
Yes.
we see the nature of the NFL changing with running backs. You very rarely see a bell cow running back. I think like the only one that really comes to mind, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. Sure, of course, I may be missing some more here and there, but those are the 3 big ones that come off of the top of my head. But we're now starting to see where the running back is now running back by committee. And I'm sure you've all started to notice that in fantasy as well, when your guys are no longer scoring 20, 30, but they're like, 13, 14 points, right? So that's what I was saying is like, I think that he has a high potential in that sense, is because that's what we are characterizing him as, is this hard-nosed player that is just going to bull rush. And if we're saying that that's Jamal Williams led the league last year in rushing touchdowns. So that's a high potential for me. So you're going to see him get a lot of goal line work if that's the type of runner that he is. So I'm not saying that he's going to come in and he's going to be a bell cow in Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, or anybody else like that. But I think that we are going to see him we're going to see him get valuable usage as a 5th or 6th round pick. I think that this is a solid sleeper for this draft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good pick. So when we talk about sleepers here, and one of the guys that I have that first came to my mind, some people might say he's not a sleeper because he could be projected to go in the 1st round. He could be projected to go in the 2nd round. Nobody really knows. It's up there 1st or 2nd. But when we talk about sleepers and all this, my sleeper is actually Hendon Hooker. And I'll tell you why he's my sleeper is because with Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, all those big name quarterbacks coming in to this draft, people forgot about Hendon Hooker. We're talking about a guy who was a Heisman finalist all the way up until his injury. This guy at Hendon Hooker. So this year alone, Hendon Hooker had 229 completions out of 329 attempts. It's pretty good.
Only 100, if I'm doing my math right. You said 229 out of 329. Only 100 incompletions.
Yep. Tied for first in interceptions in all of FBS with only 2. Not to mention what he did to Alabama's secondary. He had a 69.6% completion percentage, 3,135 yards this year, and he didn't even finish the year because he got hurt. And he had 27 TDs with a QB rating of 175.5.
I'm honored that when we do most stat comparings that we bring, what he did against Alabama. That actually makes me feel good though. I know the stat is against Bama, but I love that we're compared, like how we're kind of using this.
It should make you feel good, but the fact that they almost put 60 points on y'all.
Yeah, that doesn't make me feel good at all. That does not make me feel good at all, but I love how we're used as the comparison in most players.
And when I was looking earlier and I was like looking at all the stats compared to all the years, and all the years that he's been playing, he's never had a quarterback rating under 90% in college football.
That's amazing.
And I just think he gets overlooked this year, and that's why he's my sleeper, just because of Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. So to me, my first sleeper, my biggest sleeper, has to be Hendon Hooker. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in here, where I think he's going to go. And on me personally, I think Tampa Bay gets him in the 1st round.
So you're thinking Hendon Hooker is a late 1st round pick?
I think I could see Hendon Hooker going to the Buccaneers. I believe at 19. Is that the pick they have, 19?
Yeah, currently.
I could see Hendon Hooker going at 19 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I mean,
it's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick.
What'd you say his completion percentage was?
This year was 69.6. Yeah, 69.6% completion percentage this year.
The only thing too is I think,
but he didn't finish the year.
Right. And I think that something that he kind of gets put in the same boat as is Stetson Bennett. Because the reason I say that is because Bennett also had one of the top completion percentages in the league. I think he had like a mid 68%. So Hendon Hooker did have a better completion percentage for sure. I don't know where that would have been though if he would have finished the year, but they're both 25 years old. I think that's where that hurts his draft capital. But at the same time, being 25 years old is still young, but it's old for the NFL, right? So,
Okay, but at a quarterback, though?
I mean, that's true, but
you're not getting hits like a running back is.
I know, but that's true. But Hendon Hooker was also able to make plays with his legs, and he also had a knee injury. So,
but
that's something else to take into account. He also
was really good. Like, you go back and you watch the LSU game, and you go back and you watch tape on the Alabama game, and then you go back and I don't remember what game.
Look, there are a lot of games I could go back and watch games on. I mean, there's a lot of games
in the pocket.
Right, but the NFL is just a totally different environment. It's a whole different jungle, right? Like,
well, you could say that about anybody getting drafted this year.
See, like for me, like it's hard for me. I do think that Hendon Hooker I think he has a lot of potential, and I do think that he is a sleeper of this draft just because he is overshadowed, and he was a Heisman finalist, and that speaks volumes. Now, with him, he had a lot of talent at the wide receiver position with Jalen Hyatt and I think Cedric Tillman as his top receivers. So. And I think both of those wide receivers are projected to both go in the first, in the second round, somewhere up in there. I don't think either one of those make it out of the top two rounds. So, he had top talent, but I think that the most NFL ready team, and I always love looking at them, but the most NFL ready team in recent history has been the Georgia Bulldogs. And if we look at how Hendon Hooker played against Georgia at the time, he didn't do well. I know it was at the beginning of the season. It was probably week 3, week 4. But if we look at how he did, I think he was sub 200 in passing yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. Did not have a good game.
On the road in Athens, Georgia. Bryce Young didn't play good at Texas. He was terrible at Texas.
I agree. I agree. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to use that game as the only outlier.
Well, yeah, no, I'm saying like when I'm saying that's what irritates me is like when GMs because GMs do that. They'll say that one game against Georgia, okay, but you're playing like that's against the national championship team. Then you go and look at the game that Bryce Young struggled at was an unranked Texas team.
Yeah. No, I do agree, but I think it speaks volumes. We know he's coming off of an injury, so that obviously hurt his stock a little bit. So I would be surprised if, I would have to see who is left for Tampa Bay at 19.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that they're for sure going to go Hendon Hooker. I'm saying
it would be a fitting pick.
A possibility.
Yeah, it would definitely be a fitting pick.
You're going to come in and you're going to work with him. You're going to let him learn the offense. He's going to go through some training. He's going to, of course, meet with the doctors, and he's going to. He's there to learn the offense. But when he finally learned Tennessee's offense, you take Hendon Hooker out of the scenario at Tennessee this past college football season. Tennessee does not have the year they have. And when you bring up Jalen Hyatt, yes, he's a good wide receiver, but was he on anybody's draft board before the Alabama game? No.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he was. But yeah, no, that game definitely rose his stock.
Second round. Yeah,
it rose his stock.
He was not. Yeah. That's what I was getting at. He was not a projected first or second round draft pick.
Yeah, no, I like the pick.
Maybe second, but not.
I like the pick because I know that he had a lot. I think we saw Hooker's stock. His fell. Obviously, that happens anytime that you suffer a late injury in a season that you're declaring for the NFL draft. Obviously, your stock is going to plummet, and that's happened to him. So. It's a good pick, but I'm also kind of anxious to see how it goes for him. I hope the best. And I think that out of the teams not inside the top 10, I really think that Tampa Bay makes a move. I don't know. Again, at 19, I'd be interested to see. I don't know if they go Hooker, but I could also see them trying to trade back up into the second round to get Hooker. I don't think anyone necessarily behind them. I can't think of the teams behind them off the top of my head.
Vegas getting them in the second round.
That would be a good one too. I could see that.
So I mean, usually I wouldn't say that a player is necessarily a sleeper pick if it's in the first round, but with him possibly being the sixth, possibly a seventh quarterback off the board in the first round is definitely a sleeper pick. So I think that's
and that's why I just kind of threw it out there, just because, like, of course, if you take out Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and they stay for their final year, is Hendon Hooker a top 10 draft pick this year? Sorry, my voice kind of cracked there. But if C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young decide to stay for their senior year, is Hendon Hooker a top 10 draft pick?
Potentially.
I think that, potentially.
I think he would still. I think. Go ahead, on.
No, I was going to say I would say yes, only because there are a lot of quarterback hungry teams in the NFL currently. So I would say absolutely. But I think if he was in the draft last year, I would say he would not be a first round pick because there weren't so many hungry quarterback teams. I think that because there are so many this year. I think obviously we have to, analyze the circumstances. This year, yes, but next year, or last year, no, probably not. It's just
for me, I still struggle because I don't think that he's better than C.J. Stroud. I don't think that he's better than Bryce Young. I don't think that he's better than Anthony Richardson. Will Levis is the question mark. So we're talking about potentially Hendon Hooker
better than Will Levis.
Well, I know, but for me, I can look at it either way. So we're looking at Hendon Hooker being either the fourth or fifth best quarterback. So then that means that if we're saying that he's a top 10 pick, we're saying that either 8 or the top 10 teams would all have to select a quarterback. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. Like, we'd have to have 4 quarterbacks selected within the top 8 or top 10. So I don't know. I struggle with that. I do think that he'd have been a higher pick if that injury never happened. I absolutely believe that. But I think that the injury has created some uncertainty moving forward with Hooker.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I know that's everyone's thoughts on that one. But moving on, DJ, who do you have as your second sleeper coming into the draft?
So for my second sleeper, like I said, the first one that I did an offense. Second one, I wanted to do a defense. And this is someone that I'm excited about because personally, I have seen some mock drafts where they have this dude falling to the Packers in the second round. This guy was a linebacker out of the University of Iowa, and he goes by the name of Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell made a name.
Sounds like a Hall of Famer name, doesn't it?
I'm telling you, and he has the credentials to also meet that, right? So at his NFL combine, 20-yard shuttles. This is only compared to the linebacker position, but the 20-yard shuttle, he was first. His time was first in all of linebackers. The 3-cone drill, he was first. The broad jump, he was second. So all of those, he has the explosiveness, right? The 20-yard shuttle, the 3-cone drill, and the broad jump. Those are all explosiveness and shows his ability to move laterally side to side. And that is exactly what you're looking for in a linebacker. So he is slept on. He has a big frame and also excellent speed. He didn't necessarily test well in his speed, but we also have to consider the size that he is. He is 6'4", 250 pounds, and he ran a 4.65 40. That is quick for a 250-pound linebacker. Also considering that he has quick lateral speed side to side. Because again, ranked first in 20-yard shuttle and the 3-cone drill. So I'm excited for that. Now, also, if we look at some of the awards that he won, and I'm not going to go into all of them because, guys, when I tell you this dude won about 10 or 12 awards for Iowa this past season for 2022, his awards list is crazy. So the most important ones, right? He won this year's 2022 Butkus Award. If you don't know what Butkus is, the Butkus Award is, right? That goes to the best linebacker in the NCAA, right? And now, if we look at the other people who have won this award in the past, Mosley, Eric Cast, the names Von Miller, Patrick Willis, Luke Kuechly, CJ Hendricks, and there's plenty of other successful linebackers who have showed a ton of success within the NFL who have won the Butkus Award when they were in college. So he already has a high ceiling in that. Another award that this dude won was the 2022 William V. Campbell Award. And if you don't know what that is, this William V. Campbell Award is considered to be the academic Heisman. So not only is this dude a freak athlete, but he is also so smart, right? Now, with him being that level of smart, that is where I saw some of his weaknesses come in on the reports that I have read, is that he pre-reads too much and can sometimes get lost in the space. So he will overanalyze the situation, and then they see him getting lost in space. That happened to a couple of times with him in Iowa. So obviously NFL scouts are looking into that, and that's kind of the worry that has created to it. He has all of the athletic measurables to be a first-round pick, right? But the reason that he's kind of slid down to the second is just because of the mental game that it plays. We know that his brains are all there, right? Like I said, he won that award that's considered to be the academic Heisman, but sometimes he can overanalyze. And I know that that comes with time, and hopefully he can get a good mentor whenever he gets into the NFL. So one other weakness that I also wanted to talk about, and that a lot of scouts are worried about that I've seen, is his coverage game. So he has good lateral side-to-side movement, but he is a bigger framed guy with a little bit of a slower speed for a linebacker. He is very fast for his size, but he is not a necessarily very fast linebacker, right? So people are worried about how he's going to cover tight ends and running backs in the passing game. But in college, he was pretty good, but we're worried about the type of success that he's going to show against elite style tight ends and running backs. So if we look at his college stats, he had a 70.6 QBR, which is really good. So whenever he was targeted, the guy that he was covering, whenever he was targeted, there was a 70.6 QBR rating. And he had 1 defensive pass breakup and 2 interceptions. So he showed success in the pass game. But again, we are talking about college ball, and especially in the Big Ten, where that's a really pretty, I would consider it, with the exception of a few teams, but a pretty run-heavy conference. So he has shown success in the pass game, but it is the Big Ten and a run-heavy conference, and now we're talking about the NFL. So I do have my worries about that, but he is a pretty exciting prospect at the linebacker position for me.
I'll tell you, I couldn't imagine, now that we've talked about this in our past episodes, but I couldn't imagine going against Iowa with Lucas Van Ness and your boy right here, Jack Campbell. Like, it sounds like a beast of a defense there. With
that's
Iowa,
what kept them in all their games all year, was their defense, because their offense was terrible.
Yeah, they sounded extremely fast too, and that's something that I'm not really too concerned about with this coverage. With that type of speed and that type of, how big he is and how tall he is, I think that he'll do just fine in the NFL. I think if they can just teach him how to, get the coverages and be in the right position at the right time and fulfill his responsibilities, I think he'll be an outstanding, athlete in the NFL. But also, so DJ, just so good pick, but I also want to keep this here in the Big Ten. So I'm actually going with one of my next sleeper picks. I'm also going defense, and the player I'm going with is the cornerback out of Michigan, DJ Turner.
DJ.
There you go. So he's projected to go in between the rounds of 2 and 3 currently. So pretty good sitting, in between those rounds. There's a lot of good talent. His size is at 5'11", 178 pounds. It's a little small for a cornerback, I think, what teams are looking for, but he draws comparisons from Anthony Everett, but a faster Anthony Everett. Anthony Everett ran a 40 time of, I believe when I looked it up, was a 4.36. So that's fast.
Boy is boot scooting, son.
But no, that's Anthony Everett. That's Anthony Everett's time. And
that's still boot scooting, son.
But listen here, I said that he was a faster Anthony Everett.
Oh.
So, yeah,
that dude,
listen to this.
Then your boy DJ Turner is doing a lot more than boot scooting, son.
So, and exactly. So before I tell you his 40 time, prior to the NFL Combine, there were sources specifically from a Midwest scout for an NFC team. So somewhere in the NFC, there's a team that's very highly interested in him. We don't know who, but they predicted that DJ Turner was going to be a monster tester at the Combine and one of the best in his position groups. So are you fellas ready for his 40-yard dash?
Hit me with it.
It was a 4.26. Guys,
Gosh.
that matches the fourth fastest time in NFL history.
Dude,
fourth
that-
fastest matches. The
That
fourth
dude had to
fastest.
put some fire extinguishers on his feet when he was done running because that's moving.
Dude, I couldn't imagine. His athleticism score by the NFL Combine was a 97. That's actually ranked second out of the cornerback group. I think the first was Deontay Banks. Deontay Banks is an inch taller, so not really much difference in height. But he was also slightly slower at 4.35, still blazing speed, but you just can't beat a 4.26. So he's a cornerback with outstanding speed and explosiveness, capable of playing tight coverages across the field, especially against difficult routes such as shallow crosses. Guys, we know how hard shallow crosses are to defend. And, one player that I think that runs that a lot, can y'all think of one? One that's super fast, all over the field all the time.
Tyreek Hill?
Buda Baker?
Well, offense. Tyreek Hill was who I was going for.
Oh,
So
I thought
yes,
we were talking
DJ.
about defense.
So
Damn.
I think that, and here's what's crazy to me. I think when I was looking, he was ranked like the 11th cornerback, he wasn't even
Not
in
even
the
top 10.
No, not even top 10, I don't believe. And so what's crazy about that is I think that the reason he's a sleeper is because with his tangibles of how fast he is and explosive as he is, I think that he's going to be able to play in those very hard cornerback slots where he's going to be able to cover receivers like Tyreek Hill. These fast receivers coming into the league, I think it's
kind of be like up close and personal,
right. And so that's where I'm getting into his weakness too. I don't think he's going to be able to play that outside coverage. He has before in college, and he was quite successful. But at the NFL level, with these much taller and lengthy receivers, I don't think that he's going to be able to go out there and produce like he did in college. But I think at the NFL level, he'll be just as successful as he was at the college level. And I think that he's going to be very. Yeah, I think that, and he's going to be great at nickel defenses. Yes, I do think he will be highly effective in the nickel defenses, which is why I can see him going somewhere like the Eagles, the Steelers, or the Commanders, where they are very heavily invested in the man-to-man coverages.
As a Cowboys fan, by God, keep this man away from the freaking Eagles.
4.26, man.
Two out of the three teams Dalton named were NFC East.
I know.
Eagles or the Commanders.
So
Eagles, Steelers.
But
so,
I mean,
I think
I was about to say, because he kind of relates to kind of like I was saying with Tank Dell. The only knock that we really have on him is his size, and that's it. But I know that you're
running a 4.26.
I mean, he is, and I mean, speed is going to make up for quite a bit. But I mean, it was like you were saying, like I know
route for him.
Yeah, and then like last episode, Dalton, when we brought up Devin Witherspoon, like he was a smaller framed cornerback too, and his player comp was Jair Alexander. So I could see him maybe having that potential if we're saying that the only weakness that he has is kind of his frame. So I mean, I don't know. I know at 178, I think Jair is close to like I think he's in maybe the 190s, high 180s. So 178 is pretty small, so he'd have to bulk up a little bit.
That 40 time, I can't get over that 40 time.
And they were also saying he's pretty aggressive when it comes to tackling too. They said he's a pretty good tackler at his size too. He doesn't like to shy away from hits. So that's great too. I think he'll get up there and he'll play aggressive too. And actually, one thing that I noticed as well, if I can see here, Chris Sims. He is currently with NBC Sports. He was saying that he actually has DJ Turner ranked as his number 2 cornerback, which I think is pretty bold. But he says that he's the most technically sound player at the position in the 2023 NFL Draft. So there's a lot of people that have him ranked really high. I think actually coming out of the NFL Combine and what he had put up, I think they actually put him at like a number 7 or number 8 cornerback. So he wasn't up there with like the Brian Branches and
Brian Branch is safety.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he's a safety.
Well, for defensive backs and secondaries. I'm sorry. That's kind of how they put him in the combine. So, but I think that being a number 2, I see how people have a really high floor for him. And I'm kind of excited to see where he's going to go now that I know how fast he is and how he can match up against receivers like Tyreek Hill. I think that's what ultimately teams are trying to stop, So.
I mean, that's a solid sleeper pick, and you made some really good points there. But looking forward here, I know that both of y'all went defense with y'all second sleepers. For me, I had to put some respect on this next guy. Playing in the Big 12, you don't get much mention when the best running back in all of college football plays in your conference. And for me, the sleeper pick coming out of there is a running back, and that's old little bitty Deuce Vaughn.
Oof, I tell you what,
Let's
as
bring
a
up his
Baylor
stats
fan,
against Bama. Let's go ahead and do that.
oh, I'm
Because
just saying,
that
as a fan of
dude
Baylor,
freaking
I am
destroyed us.
so glad to see this dude out of here. Like Bijan, thank
It's
you,
a Big
bye.
12.
Deuce
Yeah,
Vaughn,
you're
see you,
losing
bye.
the top two best running backs in the conference are leaving.
Yeah,
So I mean, but
hallelujah.
a lot of people look past Deuce Vaughn because he is super small, super short guy, and I can see him being a third day pick, and he's going to go that late just because of his size. He's super small. He's like Darren Sproles small, maybe even smaller than Darren Sproles.
That's a good comparison, yeah.
But if he's a taller and a bigger framed body, he's a first round draft pick because in his and I'm gonna have to read off my little note here that I made of Deuce Vaughn because I put a lot of stuff in there and I can't remember all my stuff like y'all can because I'm just not as smart as y'all. But during his 3-year career at Kansas State, he had 651 carries for 3,604 yards on 34 rushing touchdowns. He also had 116 career receptions for 1,280 yards and 9 career receiving touchdowns. And then his last year, so this past year at Kansas State, he had 293 carries for 1,558 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns, and added an additional 42 receptions for 378 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yes, and he's a sleeper to me because of his height. He's a smaller guy, but he's super shifty, super fast. And DJ, you can contend to watching this, and Dalton, you can too. Watching him play against Alabama, if you miss a tackle on him, farewell. Might as well start trotting to the sideline because he's gone. He's that fast. And as soon as if he's by you, or you, like you bring up Jack Campbell, if he makes that one mistake to where he gets lost in space, you're not recovering on Deuce Vaughn. I mean, he's just that quick, he's that fast. He can kill you in the running game. Hell, they were even running in the A gap with him because he's so fast. Once he gets past the defensive line, he's gone. I mean, he's just too fast. So he's a weapon in the backfield, and he's a weapon in the receiving game as well. And where I think he's going to fit the most, where I would love to see him go, Dalton, you're going to appreciate this, is the Denver Broncos. And that's because I know they have some good running backs there, and they got some power there. But Sean Payton likes those guys. I mean, he drafted Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round? Something, if I'm not mistaken, or was it the second?
It's maybe in the second or third.
Second to third round. That's a Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, I think
Sean Payton brings him into Denver with Russell Wilson. Really shifty, really fast, good hands, can make guys miss in open space. And once he's past you, he's gone, and he's getting big chunk plays. And that fits Sean Payton's style of offense, and that could really help Denver. And I see Sean Payton just drafting him because it makes sense of what all the running backs that he's had in his style of offense. And I really think that if Deuce Vaughn does that, you could see a Darren Sproles type career.
Yeah.
Imagine having Deuce Vaughn with Russell Wilson to be like the little Giants dude.
Oh,
back
gosh.
The Denver Broncos. Dude, that'd be freaking.
But no, for me, like I do like that, and I do like that comparison because for me, like I see his ceiling, like you're saying, as Darren Sproles. And Darren Sproles had a really good career, and he made his career
Yes,
out
he
of
did.
special teams, but then also being a receiving back, not necessarily a running back, but a receiving running back, right? So I think that his ceiling is Darren Sproles, but his floor is kind of a Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay is a very small running back. We saw him have a little bit of success, but then that was kind of it.
Well,
But
yeah, he had
I
a
mean,
Pro Bowl
I
his first year.
That's
no, and that's what
true,
I'm saying.
but
He had a little bit of success, but then like, what now? What? Where is he? Where did he go after that 1 to 2
he's
years?
in the XFL now with the Seattle Dragons, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and see, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
so
think
I
so,
see that.
but-
I see that as his floor, just because of his size at running back. But like I said, to my point earlier, the NFL is transitioning into this style of game where it's a running back by
Okay, but-
committee.
yeah.
And I think that
Even
that's
when
where that helps Deuce Vaughn's case. That is going to help
but
him so
even
much.
when it wasn't a running back committee, Darren Sproles had a heck of a career, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't he play for the Saints at one point?
Maybe towards the back end of his
But who-
career.
I think he did.
I'm not sure.
Darren Sproles.
I just think of Eagles every time I think Darren Sproles.
Yeah,
Oh, that's true,
Darren
me
Sproles,
too.
I'm pretty sure he did.
But I'm pretty sure he played for the Saints. But if you're a running back like a Deuce Vaughn, you're coming in and say Sean Payton does draft you, that is the best thing for you because Sean Payton loves guys like that. That's why look what he did with Alvin Kamara. He's one of the best fantasy running backs when he was there with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Come on, Sean Paul,
So-
get us a little
so-
Deuce Vaughn
so-
and some Roshan Johnson. Let's go.
If you go and get Deuce
There's our
Vaughn
committee right there.
in the fourth, fifth, or sixth round, and then year 2, he's one of the top
Yeah.
fantasy running backs because I mean that's the Sean Payton likes guys like that.
Well, I mean,
I
so
just
let's
think his
not
potential's through the roof.
let's not forget that they
because-
have Javonte Williams. So I do think that
Well,
Javonte
yeah.
Williams is still going to
Yeah.
be the workhorse back in that backfield. But I do think that a Deuce Vaughn added to that is
with the coach who's the best
is
at
gonna
coaching
be
those
top tier.
players.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That is a really I love Deuce Vaughn. Like I said, I am so excited to see him out of Texas or Kansas State and not playing Baylor anymore. I am so happy to see that dude out. But like, I don't know. So I think he is going to have a good career, but I don't think it's going to be a between the tackles. Like I think that he's going to make his money.
No.
He's going to be earning his dollar through catching the ball. Which again, at Kansas State, he has shown that he can do that, and he can do that at
Austin
an elite
Eckler.
level. Yeah. Well, I mean, Austin
He could be
Eckler is a
like
little bit of
Austin
a
Eckler.
Austin Eckler is a little bit of a different cat. Austin Eckler can run between the tackles. He can also catch the ball wide open in space and run sideline to sideline.
Yeah, he's
He's a
But,
different
I mean,
cat.
when you think of Darren Sproles, or not Darren Sproles, Deuce Vaughn, I think the best fit for him to have the best career is to go to the Broncos with Sean Payton, just because of the success that Sean Payton has had working with guys like Deuce Vaughn. So I think that if he gets in there with Sean Payton and with the Broncos, I think that you'll see Deuce Vaughn with the Broncos for a very long time and have a pretty successful career.
Yeah. So here, listen to this, guys. This is actually a very interesting fact. I was just doing some research just now. But the smallest player in NFL history is currently Trendon Holiday. I believe he was a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos at one point. But I know he came out of LSU. But he came in at 5'5", 165 pounds. Guess where Deuce Vaughn comes in at?
Probably like 5'3".
He comes in at 5'5", 168 pounds.
Oh.
He's right now. He's 3 pounds heavier than the smallest player in NFL history.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's like I don't even know who the dude is that you had named earlier. Like, that is my worries. That is my worries with Deuce Vaughn in this. But like I said, he has been such a workhorse with Kansas State. So I would imagine he carries some
offense.
Yeah, he carries some sort of success with him to the NFL. So I'm excited, guys. I think between the two picks that each of us made, any of these teams, any of the 32 teams would be lucky to have any of these dudes. So I'm excited to see where this goes. But I will tell you where this episode goes. Okay. And it's to some of our fan favorites. And we are getting into bench banter. right? And I explained bench banter a little bit in the last episode, but if you are a new listener and starting off on this episode, bench banter is kind of a trivia style game where Nathan, Big Nate, is going to be quizzing me and Dalton. So in previous episodes, Big Nate kind of quizzed me and Dalton separately. We each had our own separate questions, and then we could kind of steal points. But me and Dalton didn't test too well in previous episodes, so we are teaming together. We are putting our brother minds together, and we are trying to beat Nathan's questions as a whole, right? So that is Bench Banter. Bench Banter, again, is just a trivia game. So, Nathan, hit us with question number 1.
Bring it on.
Let's
go.
Let's get this going. Let's ride the pine, boys.
Woo!
Question number 1. What NFL team has won the most games in NFL history?
Okay, so when
It's
we
gotta-
do this, do me and DJ, do we each get a guess? I get a guess. Does that mean we both get hints? Or do we only get one hint per team?
I say we get 1 hint, but
Well, I
we
mean-
get 2 tries. I say we get 1 hint, but we get 2 tries.
But y'all are on the same team. Yeah, y'all are on the same
One,
team.
All right, one
yeah,
hint,
yeah,
2
yeah.
tries.
One hint, 2 tries. So, Dalton, for
One
me,
hint, 2 tries.
we have to consider
The type of fan he is.
yes, but also
Okay.
we have to consider teams that were
He's
kind
also
of
he's also a
introduced.
bandwagon.
The teams that were introduced into the NFL at first. So obviously, as a Green Bay Packers fan, I think of all of the championships that they won a long time ago before the Super Bowls were even a thing. So I'm sure that those numbers come into an equation, but also the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl era have the most Super Bowls. So for me, I am either in between Green Bay and Pittsburgh.
Okay,
those are my
those
thoughts.
Your 2 options. Dalton, let Dalton be the deciding factor.
No, I want to hear,
So,
but I got to hear Dalton's thoughts.
Okay, fair
Okay,
enough, fair
well,
enough.
obviously my thought was, so DJ made a good point. So with Green Bay coming back, we know they're one of the first teams and how far back they go and how many wins they could have possibly accumulated. So DJ makes a good point, but I'm going to take this from more of a personal standpoint, knowing Nathan. Since high school and probably since middle school and since then, Nathan was a 49ers fan to begin, but being from his hometown and his family being big Cowboys fans, Nathan also kind of made that transition over time. So he's been a longtime Cowboys fan too as well. So to me, I was either going to choose, between Green Bay from a statistical standpoint, but either the 49ers or the Cowboys for me. I feel like this was an easy question that was supposed to be Cowboys.
See,
But-
I mean,
So,
I
what's
see
the final answer, though?
I see the
mean,
thought
both of y'all-
process. I see the thought process,
yeah,
Dalton.
it's
But
Great thought
we-
process.
we
but
have
what's
to-
the final answer?
I mean, because I know the Cowboys are up there in Super Bowls also. So it may not be the Steelers for me, and I'm not just saying this off of my biasness of being a Packers fan.
Do y'all want a hint?
Repeat the question, and then give us a hint. Repeat the question, and then give us a hint.
What NFL team has won the most games in NFL history?
NFL
And the
history.
hint is, y'all have already said the team.
Oh, son of a
Okay,
gun.
so
It's got to be Green Bay. It's got to be Green Bay.
Well,
It's got to be Green
okay,
Bay.
is it Green Bay?
It's okay. So look, this is how
It
it's gonna
is
work.
Green Bay.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna say. Okay,
It
I
is
will
Green
start.
Bay.
I will start. I'll say Green
is
Bay,
Green
and then
Bay.
Dalton. If I'm wrong, you throw your hint. You throw your guess out there.
Well, we
So
out of 4
it is-
teams, we had it.
it
so
is
I had
Green
multiple choice
Bay.
going.
But get this. Green Bay is second in the winning percentage. Who's first?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Wait, hold on. Is
in
this a new question? Is this a new question? Or
No,
is
it's
this
it's part of the same one because
Okay.
Did we already?
because Green
Did we
Bay-
already name this team?
yes, yeah.
Okay, Dalton. I think that this is where you were headed.
Yeah, this is where Dalton was headed.
Yeah, I think that. I think it would be the.
Before, layup.
I think it would have to be the Cowboys,
The
right?
Cowboys. Yeah.
It is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, that's what I was
Cowboys
thinking.
percentage of winning is better than the Packers, but the Packers have won more NFL games.
Hey, that's what matters.
And they have won 790 games.
So you're telling me when Jordan Love goes on his first 10-game win streak to start the 2023 season, we're going to be at 800?
You're gonna hit 800.
We're going to hit 800 this year.
Okay.
DJ, are we gonna put bets on that? Like, what's the over under on that?
Yeah, what's the over-under on that?
Honestly, I wonder what Vegas has Green Bay's win totals at.
With
Yeah,
Jordan
but
you
I
Love?
want to
they're
know
at-
the over-under on Green Bay hitting 800 this year.
Yeah, I mean, over under 800 is pretty good, or 500 is pretty good. Yeah, over under 500 is pretty good.
No, he's talking about total franchise wins. So we need
Right?
10
No,
wins
I'm
this
talking
season.
about total. I'm talking about total. Yeah, total wins this season. But my over under for wins this season with Jordan Love, I would put it over under 500. So 8.5 wins for Jordan Love with Green Bay.
Yeah. I would say, and if that's the case, I would say over 8.5. I think Green Bay could get us over 8.5.
Number 2, who holds the most touchdowns in a single season, and how many did they have?
In a single season,
Mine would be
Single
lit-
season.
in a single season. I'm
Wait,
going,
but this
I'm
is a
thinking-
two-part? This is a two-parter?
I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, if you get the guy right, yeah. But I just did the 2-parter in there just for
Okay.
fun.
Okay,
in a single
Dalton.
season, I'm thinking Peyton Manning.
What are we talking? Yeah, what? Okay. Because what are you I guess are you talking about passing touchdowns or like what are we talking about? Is this
Passing
okay?
and
Is
rushing?
this a quarterback? Yes or no? This isn't our hint.
Okay,
You have to
okay,
tell us that.
so-
Is this a quarterback?
No,
Yes or no?
No, we're not going to do a quarterback.
Okay.
So when this question was brought up, I think all quarterbacks were thrown out of the topic here.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. That was a very good hint though, Dalton.
Yeah, that was.
Or that was a very good
I probably,
guess.
I probably should have clarified that in the question. That's on me.
Okay.
But yeah, no, quarterbacks are out on this one.
So
So
for
say the question one more time now that we know that.
Who holds most touchdowns Who holds the record for the most touchdowns in a single season
I think I know who it is, but Dalton,
with no quarterbacks?
I'm gonna say
Hold on, DJ. Before you say,
okay.
did we? I don't think the non-quarterback was a hint, though. I think
No,
was something we're supposed to know
no.
before
No,
that.
it
that
wasn't
needed
a
to be
hint. That should have been
specified.
clarified in the question.
So
Yeah.
for the hint, can we get the position?
He's a running back.
I was about to say. I think I know who it's LaDainian Tomlinson.
It is LaDainian Tomlinson. How
Okay,
many
good.
did he have though?
I think 24.
Dalton, you want to throw a guess up there?
23, 22 or God. I'm saying
I'm gonna say 20.
ooh.
I'm going to say over 25. I'm going to say 26.
31.
Ah, dang it. Dang it. I got the player right. We
I was
count.
closer.
That's, we're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
You
We're,
got it right. You got it right. You got the player right. You got the player right.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
All right, question number 3. Who holds the record for the most rushing yards in one game, and how many did he have? You have to
Peyton
get the
Man-
yards
I'm just-
right.
Okay, so rushing yards in a single game,
Who? Yep.
not total. Okay. Not for the season, but single in one
In
game.
a single game.
okay, give us the team. Or no, give us
I
a
can't
hint.
do that.
Give us a hint.
He played at Oklahoma.
Mm.
Oh, it's Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
Now, how much
How many
did
yards
Adrian
was it?
Peterson rush for?
Run in that game. I think it's over 300.
Oh, absolutely. It
I'm
would-
going to say
Okay.
I'm gonna say-
okay. Hold up. Oh, is you saying over under 350? I say under 350.
okay. I'm
Are you
going to
asking
say
for the hint?
No. I'm asking Dalton.
Oh, okay. Oh, you already got your hint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have the hell with that.
325. Over under 325.
Dude,
Okay,
I'm
Dalton.
gonna have to say under as well, but I'll go like 340s. I'll say it was 340s, wasn't it?
You said under 325, but then you throw 340.
Both.
Under 350. 350. I'm gonna say it was in the three. I say it was just shy of 350.
Y'all both wrong. It was 296.
Oh,
I'll give y'all the
really?
win right here, right now, if you can guess what team it was against.
Shut up. Literally shut up, Nathan. You're trying to. I know exactly what you're doing. And it was the Packers. I know.
No, it was not.
Oh, was it? It had to be because he always showed up and showed out. I have no idea.
You're not going to guess. I just threw that one in there for fun. No, it was against the Chargers.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have never guessed the Chargers.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank y'all so much for listening to this episode, guys. This is going to be our last episode before the draft coming up. So, as always, let us know who your sleepers are. I'm curious as to what y'all have to say and even compare ours if you think that they really are a sleeper, if they're not really going to amount to much. So thank y'all so much for the listen. As always, follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. So look at any of those. They are in the description in our YouTube. We are also streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so give us a listen there. Guys, we always love the support. Thank y'all so much for riding the pine with us. We will see y'all next episode.